Good morning. Happy Monday, June 8th. My name is Casey Joyner. I'm with Scenic Sotheby's, and welcome to this channel where we are working hard to be your value spot for all things real estate and area related for Destin 30A. Been doing this for years. If you're new to this, welcome. It's a good day to be here. We've got some important things to go over. And if you've been with us all this time, cannot thank you enough. Listen, this is a big one because we're going to get into the latest and greatest with the Florida property tax discussion. Had a couple of people come to me this week, and one of them said, "Hey, Case, I'm ready to move down. Have they gotten rid of those property taxes in Florida yet?" And when that starts getting stirred up and people are starting to say things like that, it's like, okay, it's time for Casey to kind of bring all the news and the update. And there's some really important updates to that Florida property tax discussion. So I'm going to give you exactly where we are, what's coming up, and the facts today. So this is a perfect one to be on top of giving you what the week that was here on Destin and 30A. So appreciate all of you. And I'm just going to get into it. Man, I had a great weekend. I'm going to be honest. I had two opportunities this weekend where I was on the beach, left the beach to go show some of my listings, went back to the beach. Isn't that how you guys want me to live? Don't you picture that's how we're doing? You don't need me in some stuffy office all the time. We're out there living what we're selling down here. So here we go. Let's look at this. Now, last week, remember, man, that was fun to look at. Here we go. New listing 61. So what was it last week, guys? We were in the 40s and Casey was fist pumping, right? So that's what I wanted to see again, to be honest. So 61, honestly, creeping up there again, it surprises me a bit. That's not a huge increase, but we get greedy. We want to keep it in those 40s, all right? Pending sales, 28. Now, 28 is super consistent, but what did we have last week? We were basically at like 40 new listings and 37 pending. We got really close to taking away as many of the off the market as that came on, right? Now we're kind of right back into that 60. Actually, honestly, we're actually below that 50% mark for the first time in weeks, if you think about it. So we know that maintaining, like if we're bringing on 50, we like to put 25 under contract. That's what we did for like steadily for months and months and months. So we're not far off that, but I will tell you, super interesting, just this week, all of a sudden we slip below that. Listen, we don't jump to any conclusions. We don't make any rules until it happens 3 weeks in a row. But coming off of last week's hot sheet high, let's call it, I wanted to stay with that trend. And that's what it feels like out there. Still feels like that. So a little bit surprised by those numbers. Closings 24. Again, we were on a high last week. I think closings superseded the pending. So listen, came off the end of the month, a little bit of a rush after Memorial Day. Everybody comes down and falls in love with it. But I can tell you we are still busy and active out there. So none of this scares me in any way. Price changes up 72. Okay. So listen, let's see what rhythm we're going into. Last week, I predicted we'd be in the rhythm that it was last week, which was lower on the new listings. I didn't think that we'd stay there on the pendings. I thought we'd be in that high 20s, low 30s. But that's what I was wanting was last week. Let's see what happens next week. But listen, this is why I bring it to you. We look for trends, okay? Like we look for trends. Somebody actually asked me, Casey, you could do this once a month. I mean, listen, I could do this once a quarter. But I like to show up. And I like to give you the feel of what's going on each week because that's what I do. I don't get to show up once every quarter, once every month and look at this stuff. Like we're in it all the time. So all I'm doing is I'm turning on the camera and giving you my thoughts each week. Okay. So listen, I'm going to bring this up. This is going to be a fun one. All right. I made a summary for you guys and I'm just going to roll through it. And we're going to talk about what exactly is going on with the property tax situation in Florida. And now that they've made it through March and decided what they're actually going to be voting on in November. All right, so listen, I'm going to roll through this. And I made this bullet point to make it nice and easy. I'm just going to read this. If you got me on in the background, great. Come back and save it, whatever you want to do. But here we go. So to become law, this constitutional amendment requires 60% voter approval. This is happening in November. So us Florida residents are going to be voting in November. We need 60% to pass. I got a feeling it will. Massive homestead exemption bump, primary homes only, primary homes only. So a lot of you watching this, second home vacation rental, but you need to stand by. There is something for you in this. I'm just going to get to it in a minute. This part would be what would be pushing you to just move on down here. Currently, the standard homestead exemption knocks $50,000 off primary home assessed value. So if you bought it, if it's worth $700,000, if you're homestead, you're taxed on $650. Make sense? The amendment would skyrocket that exemption to $150,000 off on January 1, 2027. So when they vote in November, if it passes, boom, 153 times the amount of exemption would come off the top January 1, 2027. Listen to this. Then it would bump again up to 250,000 on January 1 of 2028. So this is what made it through when they were talking about, if you remember, I came to you months ago and they had this like long list of like variety of options on how to just, one of the options was just to eliminate them out of the gate. And I told you my concern with that. That sounds awesome, but I didn't know exactly. I mean, you take away property taxes, there's a lot that covers. Like, what's the plan in the background to cover for all those costs? Obviously, we know, and we talked about this, this does not affect the school tax portion of the property tax, law enforcement, all that good stuff. So it's not like our roads go away. It's not like our schools go down because of this. Though that portion of the property tax stays in place, but it's other factors. So this is what they came to and decided to vote on, was a launch of $150,000 off January 1, 27, and then it would go to $250,000 off, okay? Starting in 2029, after that, once you get to 250, the exemption amount would be tied directly to inflation, okay? So then it would go up and give relief based on what's going on, okay? A lot of people feel like, all right, these steps are a pathway, what they're calling it here, to complete elimination. The ballot language directs the legislature to establish a uniform legal procedure allowing local governments to continue scaling up the exemption in the future, establishing a clear path toward fully eliminating homestead property taxes down the line. Meaning they're trying, like, DeSantis's goal is still there and the path is still there. But I think this is smart, honestly, even as a homeowner, and as much as no property tax would boom everything down here, I think this still will. But this is also what this little pathway is going to do. It's going to allow local governments in the first year to go, okay, how do we balance that budget with an extra $100,000 coming off these homesteads? And then you roll into the next year and you can buffer that, right? And you kind of keep doing that so you figure out how these taxes are going to work now that some portion of this money is going to disappear, right? How's that going to work? That's what this is going to do, okay? Here's the big part. Pay attention, guys. Most of you guys that are watching this, you own a second home, you're looking for a second home or a vacation rental. Look at this one. Relief for business and second homes. This vote in November slices the annual property tax assessment growth cap on non-homestead like rentals, commercial real estate, and vacation homes from 10% down to 5%. So listen, during COVID, when everything, as a homestead, as me, even though things were going crazy in COVID, I was locked in at a 3% growth per year. That's the deal in Florida, okay? I was locked in. So it didn't really bother me. I wasn't waking up and going, oh man. But you second homeowners, you could go up to 10% each year. That was your cap. Could have went higher than that in those years based on the boom that we had. But you could line up for a 10% increase. This would take you down to a 5% cap, just ahead of what we would do on the homestead. That is huge. That means that once you purchase, you can lock in on knowing my property tax can't go up more than 5% in a given year, even if the economy just goes nuts. And if the economy goes down, property taxes are going to go down, right? That's huge news, because there was a big segment that thought that it was all this discussion was going to be only toward primary and homestead situations. That's huge news for a lot of what we do and a lot of you that we're talking to. Key nuances. We talked about this. School taxes are shielded, right? So they only apply to non-school tax properties like county and city levies. Okay, that's a big one. New resident waiting period. This is a big one. Okay, listen, because this came up, and this is super interesting. This came in. It creates a lot of conversation. Some of you may have talking points on this, and feel free to comment below. New resident waiting period. To prevent a sudden influx of people moving down just for the tax break, anyone who moves to Florida after December 31, 2026 will receive a smaller initial exemption and must live in the state for 5 years before qualifying for the full $250,000 benefit. You know, they're trying to prevent, like, man, all these people need to come in. But listen, they also gave a window up to December 31 of 2026. So if you were out there on the fence and you were like, man, we just need to find the right property and claim homestead, if per this, and if it votes in November, if you purchase between now and December 31, 2026, you can take advantage of this January 1 of 2027. If you do not, it'll be scaled down and you have to wait 5 years of full residency before you receive the full 250. So it's still going to be in play for you, but what they're doing is they're slow weighting it so that there's just not this big rush of people trying to get down here. But the way I read it, there could be a rush of people that come down before December 31, 2026. That's the way I read it, okay? Now, we're not going to know if this is fully in effect until November, but I would be shocked. I don't know anybody in the state that would be affected that would not look at this and benefit from that voting happening. I'd be shocked if it doesn't pass, honestly. Local government spending restrictions. That's the big takeaway, that if they live in Florida home permanently, here's the big takeaway, over the summary. A $250,000 exemption means roughly 60% of homestead Floridians could see city county portion of their property tax bill drop to zero by 2028. Because we live in a bubble within a bubble here. We know what our property values are here. But when you read something like this, because this is where the voting comes in, right? We're looking at it from Destin and 30A standpoints, where the average home sale on 30A is close to $2 million this year. So those property taxes coming off that is still substantial. Like, it's a great amount of money. But you got parts of Florida, look at that, 60% of homestead Floridians could see city and county portion of their property tax bill drop to zero by 2028. But here's the reality. Local governments are warning that this will severely slash revenue for things like public parks and libraries and could prompt them to raise local sales taxes and utilities. I think that's what's going to happen. So listen, here's Casey's prediction. Okay. This has been long talked about. And I think what's going to happen is this. I think this thing's going to pass. Like, I'm just reading it like you guys, but just kind of hearing people talk and what it could have been. Like, I remember that long list of things that they were like, okay, take them away immediately now. What if it's just for seniors? I think they came up with a really good solution out of the gate that not a lot of people are going to have a hard time with. The trick for me has always been, how do the local municipalities and everything still pay for what they need with a decent amount of money's going away? And that'll be, in the first 2 years, everybody's going to have to learn that and see how that impacts it, you know? Because I think that with the cap that they're doing, they'll still be able to function. If they eliminated them immediately, that would be a challenge. But it's going to give the local municipalities, counties, et cetera, a balancing act on how to figure out where those funds come from, right? I think tourism tax and things like that are going to go up. So I think that a lot of the tourism things on your hotel stays and the vacation industry down here, it's going to get more expensive, but that's going to be how they kind of kick in on that sales tax and things like that. So they're going to have to get it from somewhere. Luckily, most of the state, that is what we rely on in large part anyway. And I think you could see that going up. And maybe we see a bump in tourism, but I doubt it. I mean, a decrease in tourism, but I doubt it. I think they'll pay the tax to come on in. So I think it'll be a balancing act. But listen, that's the latest, okay? It's very exciting. I'm on the standpoint that I'd be shocked, and I'm of the standpoint that I'm going to get an additional $100,000 off my property tax bill, not my property, but my valuation come January 1, 2027. That's my feel right now. So listen, that's going to be the update until we get to November. So the next time I come to you with an update is after the ballot was passed, right? So listen, I'm going to keep bringing you this stuff. The next one that we're watching, I told you, the beach ordinance discussion this summer, they're getting underway with that. They're going to start holding the hearings and stuff. I'm not going to come to you live from the courthouse or anything, But I'm going to be bringing you that information like this because it greatly affects everything we do here because we want to keep the ball rolling. Listen, I appreciate all of you. I continue to talk to so many of you weekly. I continue to list so many of your properties. We're having a fantastic summer. I hope you are too. And if I'm yet to meet you, would love to. But give me your thoughts below in the comments on the Florida tax. Do you think that's the right move? That's that tiered step that they're doing on this time. Appreciate you guys, and talk to you next week.